folks. This is Lords with another Fellowship of the Father, and today we're going to be talking about which scriptures should we follow? Which scriptures should we follow? And we're going to talk about the differences between Paul and Jesus' teaching and whatever that might mean. So, I have a scripture that kind of comes to mind as a perplexing scripture, or one that kind of sat a little sideways with me at times. Was the one that says basically to clothe yourself with Christ, basically. Clothe yourself with Christ. I believe that was written by the Apostle Paul. And the thing about that scripture that sits a little sideways with me is, while Paul is saying clothe yourself with Christ, Christ is claiming that the kingdom is within you. So how do you reconcile those two things? So I remember I remember having a discussion with a friend of mine out in a parking lot of a church. And anyway, we're out in the parking lot of a church, and I started saying that if I ever got confused about who to listen to in the Bible, I would listen to Jesus's words over, say, someone like Paul or anyone else, the apostles. And for some reason, this fellow I was talking to had a problem with that. He was like, "What do you mean?" I go, "Well, yeah, if I have to pick between one or the other, I'll pick Jesus." He goes, "Well, don't pick between either one of them. Just follow the Bible." And I go, "Okay, well, what if we find out later that the scriptures are a little off or something?" "What are you talking about, man?" And he started struggling a bit with it. And I'm like, I didn't think it was an odd thing to bring up. I just thought, hey, I'm trying to get down to the bottom of the truth. I'm trying to figure out what Jesus wants. And if Jesus is our standard, then what's the deal? And so the conclusion of that conversation was I got to a point where I looked at him, I said, maybe we don't need to agree. Maybe it's not so important to agree, me and you. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about the particular scripture. I guess what I'm seeing lately is I take in a lot of information. One of the things that I'm hearing lately is the concept that Paul might have actually hijacked the teachings of Jesus, and he might have uh, put his own play on everything. So he kind of basically hijacked the entire church, and so now we have a church full of people that are saved by grace, and that there's no expectation. And it's all very confusing because I guess the way I always saw Paul was that he was a hard nose, I thought. And I thought they depicted him as kind of hard to get along with. I didn't realize he was the instigator of the grace doctrine, where you could be any old thing you want, and that's okay because you're saved by grace. So again, let's take a look at those two scriptures. You got one that says, clothe yourself with humility, clothe yourself with Christ. And the other ones that say that the kingdom's within you and you are a light to the world, right? So one alludes to a superficial wrapping of yourself. Clothe yourself. Make yourself visibly suitable around other people by clothing yourself with Christ. Well, Christ says, understand this stuff is in you, radiate outward. And so those are the difference between the two doctrines. So which ones do you follow? I mean, uh, you could do whatever you want. I mean, who am I? But I'm just saying, at what point does it begin not to make sense when you say Jesus is Lord of my life? And by the way, I also follow Paul. I'm not sure how those two things are reconciled. So I'm not sure, folks. This is a different way of looking at things. I never really saw myself in a predicament where I'd be making these kind of uh, distinctions, but At the end of the day, the Bible talks about they did not love truth. The reason why they had a problem was they did not love truth. So I guess that's a question I ask myself. Do I love truth? And I'll always go back to this default is that the only real problem with truth is it's not always pleasant. It doesn't always lead to a warm and fuzzy place. Sometimes truth is painful. Sometimes truth is harsh. At the same time, truth can be grounding and it can definitely get you to where you want to be. So that's my play on is if I got to pick between Jesus and Paul, I'll pick Jesus every time. And then I'm going to study out who Jesus was, what was his teachings, what are the origins of his teachings, how come Jesus himself never wrote anything that made it into the Bible. It's all very big mystery, if you ask me. So anyway, perhaps this is another short version of Fellowship of the Father, but that's something to as a food for thought for you this week. Is like, do you follow the whole Bible? Do you follow Jesus's teachings? Do you follow Paul's teachings? And if Paul's teachings or any other apostle would interfere with Jesus's teachings, then what? What do you do? So trying to be part of the solution and not the problem, but sometimes you got to define the problem. So anyway, this is Lawrence with Fellowship of the Father. If you like the video, like, share, and subscribe. I'm looking for a day where I have 1,000 subscribers, so that'd be good. So if you feel the urge to subscribe, please do, and like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you have a great week. And until then, this is Lawrence with Fellowship of the Father. Talk to you later. Bye bye.